evening and thank you for staying with us right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachuku. This is the world news at 6. Here are the top stories. We begin from outside the shores of Nigeria, where French Prime Minister Barnier has resigned. Senate makes key changes as committee AGF meet to review tax reform bills today. Arrest backfires as Amazon lists Delivery book as #1 bestseller in global politics. And PDP Board of Trustees resolves to meet Wike in January over party crisis. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. We begin from outside the shores of Nigeria, where Francis Barnier has resigned as France's Prime Minister following no confidence vote that ousted his government just yesterday. His tenure, lasting just 3 months, marks the shortest for a prime minister in modern French history. President Emmanuel Macron, who appointed Barnier, has begun consultations with allies and parliamentary leaders to find a swift replacement. Barnier and his cabinet will remain in a caretaker role until a new government is formed. According to sources cited by Reuters, Macron is eager to appoint a new prime minister before Saturday's reopening ceremony in Cathedral. Among the names floated is Francois Bayrou, leader of the centrist Modern Party and a close ally of Macron, as reported by La Parisienne. France's fractured parliament, a result of the summer election, has made governance challenging. The left-wing Popular Front Alliance secured 193 seats short of the 289 needed for a majority. The Conservative Republicans won 47 seats, but the Popular Front's internal divisions prevented them from uniting behind a prime ministerial candidate. Macron's centrist ensemble coalition had formed a loose partnership with right-wing Republicans, also Barnier starring at the helm. Back home, right here in Nigeria, the Senate is set to examine the contentious tax reform bill today in collaboration with the Attorney General of the Federation. VOP News gathered that this development follows a decision of the lawmakers during plenary on Wednesday, just as yesterday, led by Deputy Senate President Senator Jibrin Barau, to hold further proceedings on the tax reform bill. Senator Barau indicated that the Attorney General would engage with the committee to ensure that all stakeholders have the opportunity to express their views, leading to a reasoned conclusion from the discussions. The review is scheduled to occur in Abuja, December 5. And still on the world news at 6. While we are waiting ahead, apparently the popular book written by Dele Faratimi concerning his arrest earlier this week on the orders of prominent lawyer and businessman Afe Babalola has been marked as a best-selling on Amazon. Now, Dele Faratimi's book, which was published in July 2024, had garnered little attention until Tuesday when armed police apprehended Mr. Faratimi in Lagos, transferred city where Mr. Babalola lives and owns a university. The arrest and subsequent court proceedings where Faratimi was remanded in custody until a December bail hearing sparked outrage and reignited public interest in the book. Faratimi's work delves deeply into systematic corruption within Nigeria's judiciary. The author directly accuses Babalola, a 93-year-old senior lawyer, of undermining the country's justice system by influencing court decisions through bribes and backdoor dealings. In one section, Faratimi alleged that Babalola's compromised the Supreme Court and the remaining semblance of integrity it might have had, citing a specific case where the lawyer allegedly secured a corrupt outcome. The arrest has drawn widespread condemnation, with Nigerians accusing Babalola of abusing his influence to suppress dissent. Critics see the detention as an attack on freedom of expression and an attempt to silence Faratimi's damning expose. The controversy propelled the book to bestseller status on Amazon and spurred a surge in in sales at bookstores across Nigeria. Readers expressed curiosity to learn about the allegations that have ignited national debate and drawn international attention. Remarkably, Faratimi's book outperformed globally renowned titles like Why Nations Fail on Amazon's charts, a rare feat for a Nigerian-themed publication. The Nigerian police charged Faratimi with publishing materials likely to cause fear and alarm to the public or to stop the public peace. However, civil society groups, lawyers, activists have dismissed the charges as baseless, framing the arrest as an assault on Nigeria's democracy. Mr. Papalola, often regarded as Ekiti State's most influential private citizen, has faced repeated allegations of corrupting Nigeria's judiciary over the years. While he has consistently denied wrongdoing, the public backlash following Faratimi's arrest has renewed scrutiny of his legacy and practices. Now, the Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party has resolved to put an end to the party's crisis by scheduling a meeting with former Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike in January. During an emergency meeting in Abuja on Thursday, PDP Board of Trustees Chairman Senator Adolphus Wabara emphasized the importance of internal organization within the PDP, stating that the party's strength lies in collective determination rather than individual ambitions. He said, and I quote, "We cannot afford to let personal ambitions or differences overshadow our shared vision for a better Nigeria." Wabara also criticized the Umar Damagum-led National Working Committee for its repeated postponements of the National Executive Committee meeting. He expressed concerns that the ongoing delays in convening the National Executive Council meeting are eroding the trust and confidence of the PDP members. You're currently listening to the World News at 6 right here in Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. And of course, when we return, we'll head into a news analysis segment. Now, I have joining me via the telephone Mr. Elvis Elimehele, who is a political, national, and social affairs commentator. Mr. Elvis Elimehele will be responding to some questions posted to him. To kind of stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Just before we head on with our analysis segment, the Pan-Niger Delta Forum and the indigenous people of Biafra exchanged words very recently over the alleged inclusion of the Niger Delta region in IPOB's Biafran secessionist agenda. PANDEF, through its national youth leader, Dumbem Doheya, released a statement in Port Harcourt rejecting any association with Biafra, reaffirming its commitment to a united Nigeria built on equity and justice. However, IPOB dismissed the concerns, calling them garbage and reiterating that it does not force communities to join the Biafran cause. In the statement, Donyeha decried the inclusion of Niger Delta communities in IPOB's plans as provocative and insulting to the region's leaders and people. The statement quotes, "We therefore warn that the continued inclusion of PANDEF areas or communities into the so-called Biafra Republic is provocative. Also, any further attempt to disregard or belittle our leaders and fathers by claiming Niger Delta towns or territories as part of Biafra will meet strong resistance from us, the youth. Niger Delta is not Biafra," he declared. PANDEF reiterated its advocacy for a united Nigeria under a federal system where states manage their resources and contribute taxes to the federal government. Responding in an interview, IPOB spokesperson Imam Powerful refuted claims of forcing communities into the Biafran agenda. He attributed such allegations to misinformation spread by a splinter group operating under the guise of IPOB. IPOB is not a part of the group forcing any community in Nigeria to join the Biafran state. Those doing so in the name of Biafra are content creators from Finland Autopilot Group, and they are not any part of IPOB. Also, Powerful emphasized that IPOB's focus remains on achieving independence through peaceful means, including a referendum where individuals can freely decide their allegiance. Also, he called for restraint, urging media outlets and group to stop linking IPOB with fringe elements. Now, Mr. Elvis Elimehele, good evening and thank you for joining me on the World News at 6.
Good evening, Esther. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, Mr. Elvis. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, let's start off with this because we have quite a lot to also talk about on the World News at 6. I remember the last time you were in the studio, we talked about the fact that there are some communities or some states who are saying that they're not Biafrans. A couple of them said that during the Civil War, they were forced to join the war. That, some persons from the Southeast, some groups from the Southeast actually forced them, probably because of the oil they had, to hold Nigeria at ransom at the time. Now, is it surprising to hear PANDEF reiterate that they are not part of Biafra, that they are on their own? They have denounced and insisted over time they're not part of any Biafra. Now, Imapalfo has responded by saying they have never in any way asked or forced anybody to be part of the Biafran dream. They are self-independent. All they are asking is for an opportunity for a referendum where they can live on their own, and they're not forcing anyone. He referred to Simon Ekpa's Biafra in Exile group as those who are forcing other cities or other persons to be part of the Biafran movement. What's your take on that?
Yeah, thank you, Esther. First of all, I want to commend Imapa for this clarification.
Okay.
Like previous 2 episodes I had with you in the studio, and Biafra has kind of raised some dust, when some of our brothers called in and they were accusing me. But what Imapa has actually stated now is the true reflection of what Biafra is all about. Biafra has never been part of Midwest. Midwest has never been part of Biafra. Remember that those data, that later became NSA was the Midwest, was under Midwest. It was created in 1993 by true referendum. It's the only region that has been created in this nation through referendum since independence. So when I saw that content creator, like we call them, mentioning most communities and ethnics in Edo and Delta as part of Biafra, I was just laughing. I was just looking at it. Some of these people really don't know the history of this nation. They just come in because they have access to social media and all that and begin to dismiss people. But I love what PANDEF said. PANDEF has actually made it clear that we are not Edo Delta or South is not part of
No, Mr. Elvis, you recall there was a time Asari Dokubo brazenly made a statement via his social media handle. He did a live video where he called the Igbos derogatory names. That's one. 2, he reiterated that the Ijaw nation is not part of any Biafran group and that they are not actually part of the movement. Now, you also recall that Imapalfo on several occasions have always warned the press that IPOB is not part of the Biafran government in exile. Although we know that Simon Ekpa himself too have always called IPOB's group as, he calls them political elements who are supposedly frustrating the effort of the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Simon Ekpa has always distinguished himself away and different from the cause of IPOB. He has said on his own, he is fighting for the freedom of Nnamdi Kanu agreed, protecting the territories of the Southeast and also seeking for the independence of, the Biafran nation. So if that is the case, why is that continuous clamor and critics always referring to, or rather having to affiliate the Biafran government in exile as well as IPOB? Every time anything about Simon Ekpa comes on board or anything about the Biafran government in exile, they always refer to them as IPOB, despite IPOB distancing themselves, dissociating themselves from the movement or from whatever it is that, the Biafran government in exile is all about. So why is PANDEF coming to make this statement when they know the stance of IPOB over time, especially since Simon Ekpa's case has been in the news?
The clarification PANDEF is necessary because remember I asked in the studio last time, I said, which is actually IPOB? Is it Simon Ekpa or Nnamdi Kanu that is incarceration? Simon Ekpa is, in Finland, throwing tantrums into Nigeria to scatter Nigeria. He has never been too recognized as a member of IPOB. He said he's Prime Minister of Biafra in diaspora, whatever what he called himself.
Prime Minister of Biafra in exile.
In exile, yes. So if you look at the agitation for the Biafra Republic and Simon Ekpa, you see there are two different things here. What Nnamdi Kanu is fighting, everybody knows the father. But what Simon Ekpa is doing over here, most Nigerians, do not really know what he's doing. That's why we see him like who is using IPOB to fester his own personal gain, to fester his own popularity and make money out of it. I said it in the studio last time when some of our brothers attacking me. Since it is coming better now. The Mapa Apo has spoken so well. Every part of Nigeria that want to be part of Biafra, if there is a referendum, they can. If they so voted to be part of Biafra, they can be. But first of all, let's drive this message home, Esther.
Okay.
The referendum is not part of Nigerian constitution, and we have our brothers that are elected from Southeast who are in National Assembly. Has any of them raised any bill or any motion to say, okay, we want to see how this will fly in the National Assembly. We want to bring a referendum into Nigerian constitution so that any part of Nigeria that so wish to, secede out of it, out of Nigeria, can move. Nigeria is over 100 years. The first 100 years is where amalgamation of Nigeria actually, brought everybody together. After 100 years, there's supposed to have been a review. And before this 100 years anniversary that was celebrated in 2014, everybody thought that there would have been something like referendum where Nigeria could say, okay, we have had enough. Either we are not going to go on our own or independently, or we still want to stay together. That's what we should have been talking about. Not one person, trying to force everybody to live together, even when it is no longer working. It's no longer working. Let's not shy away from the truth. The truth is that those things to become that and make it, seamlessly to work for every region in this nation should be part of what should be discussed in National Assembly, and it should be brought in. Even the 2014 conference organized by Jonathan has some of the discussion of this nature there. Are we still going to be together, or we are not going to be a federation where everybody will not be on its own regionally, and then Abuja will not just remain as administrative headquarters for Nigeria, where it will be talking about presidency and armed forces and the diplomatic sector. Then these are things we are supposed to be talking about after 100 years. You see, we have over this marriage of strength-based fellows that is causing some of these problems. So some of these things are going to continuously be repeating itself. Just look at somebody, mention almost all the towns and towns and.
So are we saying that all the 40 states of Biafra that were announced in Finland, are you saying that not all those states agree to be part of the conscription of, Biafra? Is that what it is? Because if PANDEF is saying so, we heard it come something. We had some Calabar states who they mentioned there. We had where you come from. We had ESO. We had several names. Are we saying that all those states were forced to be part of it? So if there was no consultation made, how do they intend to create that region and conscribe them to be part of the Biafra movement? If PANDEF had to come out and call those mentioning them as part of the movement, because a couple of people feel that since Biafra lost the war at the time, a lot of tribes do not want to affiliate themselves.
By the time we are just waiting to hear from Obi finally concerning Labour Party, and once we hear from Obi finally
that's another interesting ask, because I've been wanting to ask it. Peter Obi really right now has just been on his own, going about his activity, being humane. Normally he does his philanthropic activities. So most of the things he's been doing, he has not been doing it under the umbrella of the Labour Party. He has been doing it on his own. The donations, he's been making it amongst them. So we're not seeing him doing anything under the Labour Party umbrella. Rather, he's been with Satanko, his obedient movement, his obedient, followers. So I don't know if that's a hidden message that is being sent. Possibly, we've not heard anything official yet. Julius Abure recently called them, that is Alex Oti, Peter Obi, that he should come home, let them settle, and let them see how they can move forward. But we've not heard anything, since then. And I don't know what this portends for Peter Obi if he intends to come in 2027. Considering that the platform he wrote in 2023 seems to have completely, shattered itself with a lot of issues in-house. Mr. Elvis Salim Hele, I want to say thank you so much for taking your time to share most of your insights with us in the World News at 6. We sincerely do appreciate your input.
Thank you, Esther. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Elvis. To wrap up here again are the top stories. France Prime Minister Barnier resigns. Senate makes key changes as committee AGF meet to review tax reform bills today. Arrest backfires as Amazon lists Dilifar Utimi's book as #1 bestseller in global politics. PDP Board of Trustees resolves to meet weekend January over party crisis. That's a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Esther Wachuku. Good evening. Thank you for listening. Do join us for the evening rush at 7 p.m.